Welcome to Healing Wisdom, a Thursday morning talk show featuring guests sharing their stories and knowledge. We discuss the healing aspects of the arts, metaphysics, social justice, and adventure through all types of terrain. So join me, Pandora Peoples, here on WOMR 92.1 FM in Provincetown and WFMR 91.3 FM in Orleans. We're streaming worldwide at WOMR.org. Hello, 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 hello out there. I'm very pleased to be with you, with filmmaker, writer, and actress Alexandra Angelique Leeper. Thank you for being back with us today. We had you talking about another film that you produced, Awaken. And so we're going to be talking about the Yogis for Ukraine film, which is a new documentary film that you're just finishing up the score on right now. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I was really excited to see your preview. It's a beautiful concept. Tell us what Yogis for Ukraine is all about and how you came to this project.
Okay. The Yogis of Ukraine is a film that we kind of fell into in a way. I met someone who was doing humanitarian work in Ukraine, and he's a yoga teacher. And there's a big Kundalini yoga teacher training that has been developed over there for part of the healing efforts that are happening over there. And within a couple of days of talking to this person, my partner, Bob Degas, who's a Hollywood director and producer, was on a plane to Ukraine without, it was kind of a spur of a moment decision. He had about 2 days to make a decision about whether to jump on board and fly over there with, the obvious dangers that are existing at this time in Ukraine. But we both felt really compelled because there's a really sensational group of yogis that are practicing Kundalini yoga, and they're teaching other people Kundalini yoga to become teachers, and they're finding it a very effective healing method for the trauma that everybody is going through. And they're even teaching military on the front line yoga, which is kind of amazing, as you can imagine. So Bob went over there last summer, and he's been there twice, and he shot all the footage. He interviewed 50 women who are yogis, a few men as well, but most of the men are on the front line, and this program is primarily female. So the film is really a story about war told through the perspective of women primarily, and we've been blown away by how much wisdom and joy and happiness is relayed in these interviews, and how much of an appreciation for life these people have, because at any moment they know they could be bombed. And a lot of them, some of them have experienced firsthand. One of the women had a bomb come into her house with her little girl there, and she talks about that in the film. So there's some really compelling stories about, kind of give you a firsthand feeling of what's happening over there right now. But it's not a sad war movie. It's a very inspiring film. And these interviews just came organically through, and just again and again and again, kind of the higher perspective about war, why war exists, how we can come to a place of peace within ourselves, and spread world peace into the greater world. And, as we've been working on this, we've just felt extremely inspired to use it to launch a wider movement, bringing together, different spiritual lineages, different people of consciousness, to really promote world peace. And that's our angle for how we're promoting the film. And what we're hoping is that we get into the Cannes Film Festival, which we've just submitted the film to, and that we're able to get a lot of energy around this to bring people together who really have a deep desire for world peace, which I think, so many people right now just feel powerless about what's happening in different parts of the world. And we're trying to create a unified effort to inspire a shift into peaceful planet. So this kind of came into our lives unexpectedly, unlike our other films that we've been developing, from scratch. Most of our films are narrative, screenplay-based films. This is our first documentary. And we're almost finished with it. We have an edit of it that we've been showing to people. It's been really well received. People are pretty blown away by it, actually. But we're in the final stage of finishing the music score, and we're raising money to make sure that we have what we need to finish the music score before we find out if we get into the Cannes Film Festival. So we're just hoping it works out and having faith that it will, because there's a real sense of a guiding presence on this project, and it feels really powerful to be involved with something like this.
It's really a great preview. Folks can go see it at yogisofukraine.com. So how can folks donate to help with the film score?
So we have a GoFundMe that we've started, and that is on our website, yogisofukraine.com. We've also just started launching our social media. We've been so busy with the film that we haven't really gotten into the social media yet, but we do have the Yogis of Ukraine, both on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll be having a lot more activity on there. The GoFundMe is the easiest way to contribute. And I wanted to say that a third of our profits when we sell the film will be going directly to Ukraine. We set up a business model to provide, support, financial support to these people. And that's why we have it on GoFundMe instead of Kickstarter or something like that, because it's the Ukraine relief. And we're hoping, that it does really well in the film festival circuit. Like to do an Oscar campaign for it, and we're hoping that we'll get multiple distribution companies interested, and then we can have a really significant chunk of money to help these people recover from the trauma, and really start something very new and inspiring, which is people in this kind of setting coming together and uplifting each other and healing each other in a way that I think will inspire the whole world. When you see the movie, it's really groundbreaking what they're doing.
Such an amazing idea that these 250 yoga practitioners are coming together, and they're this teacher training that you get to see footage of. It's the biggest one that they ever had at the studio, right? Like everyone's just really sandwiched in and still like looking really, serene. And it's really profound images that are contrasted with all the devastation, all the bombed out shelters and buildings. Just from hearing what some of them were saying in the preview, it really underscores all of the important things about humanity and compassion and love and presence and all of the wonderful benefits of yoga. And yoga is just so beyond what it seems to someone who isn't a practitioner or hasn't experienced that.
Definitely. And I think, as we're moving into a different time on the planet, and we are really praying for peace, so many people, I think, at this time are praying for peace. I feel like these tools are a practical path to that. Obviously, this is not a political movie that we've made. We've actually been careful not to get into the political issues around the war, because we really want this to appeal to everybody. And it's been interesting in our test screenings. We've had people that are on sort of more aligned with the Russian perspective, Putin, like all different sort of perspectives on the war itself, who still love this film because of what these people are saying that's coming from a higher wisdom. And it's more of a unified message about awakening to our own connection as a human race. And there's some very touching aspects to how loving these people are in the face of what they're dealing with. And when my partner went over to Ukraine two different times, he also went to France to shoot some footage of them at a festival there. He was risking his life to do this. He felt more nervous about protecting these stories and bringing this footage back to share than he did about, being hit by a bomb or a missile. He felt so guided and so driven to tell this story. And I think the way that it's turned out has just been really remarkable. People are pretty stunned when they see the film, and we're kind of getting this unusual response where it's just like everybody loves it, no matter what their belief system, even if they're not into yoga, if they don't resonate with that. There's something about the intense level of presence that these people have and positivity that they're spreading in the face of this situation that I think is really refreshing. And I think it's something that will be healing for people.
What was it like to be at home getting these regular, sort of downloads or this information with Bob relating his sort of play by play, blow by blow of everything that was going on?
Obviously, Bob and I have been working together for 15 years, and we've worked on multiple films together. And he's a very close friend of mine, obviously. And so I did have mixed feelings about him going over there. I think anyone would. Um, but he was in touch with us regularly. We had a little WhatsApp group where he would check in. He didn't really send extensive updates. He did just kind of keep us abreast of his movement. And he traveled through, I believe it was 7 different Ukrainian cities, some of which were much more dangerous than others. So it was like I noticed myself when he was getting close to the front line, being like, okay, I just have to pray and have faith for that he's going to come back alive and unharmed physically, which we're just so fortunate that he did. He has a huge connection to Ukraine now and actually wants to spend more time there, even during the war, because he loves the people so much. And he's become so close with these yogis that he's interviewed that he wants to do a premiere screening there, regardless of the situation of the war. I think the journey into Ukraine, into where he was going, it was like 4 days to get there from here, because there's a very long train trip. There's all these different things. So it was like a pretty massive journey in and out, and just the hope that he would get past the borders. And, there's all these different uncertain things when you're going into a war zone. And he had to sign like a waiver at this hotel he was staying, where he, signed away his rights if he was to be killed while he was staying in the hotel. Like these kind of things made it very real for him. But I was just so happy when he came back, and then he decided to go a second time to get more footage. And it was like, okay, here we go again with this, But we're very happy that he took that leap, because I think this film is really worth. It's just such a rare perspective, and I think it really could lead towards this kind of movement happening in other war zones and other areas in the world that are struggling, and we could really uplift the planet in a massive way, I believe.
And that's very much a part of your mission with your production company. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So I'm launching a new production company called Living Light Productions. This is a vision I've been working on for many years. We have about 8 projects in development. 4 of those are with my partner, Bob, who those are more developed because he and I have been just really, Bob had a long career in Hollywood as a very well-known producer. He produced the film Pleasantville, starring Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire, and he worked on Austin Powers and a bunch of other like big movies. So I was very fortunate to partner with him because I've learned a lot about producing from him. And my production company is really aimed towards bringing consciousness into Hollywood, of telling stories that are very compelling and that respect to the story structure of Hollywood screenplays, because most of ours are screenplay projects that move people from darkness to light instead of dwelling in the darkness as many movies do. There's a shift that happens into light, and my logo is a solar eclipse because I really feel that it's important to have that relationship in there to really get at where we are as a world, and to address the problems that we're facing as humanity as a human race at this time, but to find a way through it with the stories into a different heightened sort of elevated state. And that's what is the through line of our projects. And they span all different genres. We have a historical drama that's our biggest project called The Wild Ones, which is our next film. And we've been working on that for a very long time. And so they're all different, but it's an exciting time because I feel that this vision is coming to reality now. And, we're hoping that this first film out in the greater world can help us get the other films fully produced and shot and out into the world. And we did finish a film already, Awaken, which I already talked to about a few, like a couple of years ago, I guess.
Yeah, a couple of
So
years now for sure. Choosing the eclipse as your logo is just so profound because I'm thinking of like this kind of spotlighting, the shadow, and the light surrounding the darkness, and so on and so forth. But also, I don't know how many people are as struck by the violence in all so much of our media as I am, but I find it very difficult, even with all my smart TV and all of the things that, like Hulu and I can name every single thing, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, and even films that I used to just adore and worship, I see now, and I'm just like, wow, like, is there something redemptive about this? Like, can I learn from this? Does this feel good? Do I leave feeling, because I think I used to love feeling existential, and it's not that I need to have a happy ending, but I just find a lot of it's like it almost like feels like a satanic ritual watching like the dark side just by itself highlighted, and like I'm just not feeling aligned and congruent, and like it feeds my soul to watch most things on TV and in films, and I love film, so I'm so happy that you're doing this.
thank you.
That's
Yes.
yeah, so
I
important.
I agree with you about that. And I think that maybe there hasn't been as much of a widespread consciousness around how those type of darker, TV and films really do impact us on a subconscious level. And even if it's entertainment and not news media, which is a whole different story, that it goes into our collective subconscious. And, I do really think that it strongly impacts the reality that we're creating as a human race. And I think that it's important to have a balance between darkness and light, not to turn away from the darkness entirely because it's so prevalent, and it needs to be, it needs to be part of the story, I think, for a while anyway, hopefully not forever. But it feels to me like at this time, it's much more responsible to also explore the light and to bring in solutions and hope and higher vibration and a way through this for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely a way through. You're working on the wild ones. Did you want to speak about it at all?
I can speak a little bit about it. It's a true story about a woman in the 50s who saved the wild mustangs from being slaughtered. And it's a screenplay that my partner's been developing for many, many years. We really wanted to create like a very top level screenplay. And it's ready now to cast and shoot. And it's a very big, ambitious film for an independent company to take on. It's on the scale of like a major Hollywood film. And we have certain actors in mind that are in that arena. So we've been patient about it because we want to do it how we envision doing it. And oftentimes you need kind of a smaller bridge film to get yourself recognized to the level where you can have those kind of conversation with people that are so established. But it's a female driven story, and it's really inspiring because it's based on real history, and it spans the late 40s through the early 70s, and it really touches on a lot of things that happened, in America at that time. But it's definitely like our biggest project, and one that I think will be massively influential and shifting around, especially animal rights and feminism, coming into just a new alignment at this time, which feels really ripe for that conversation.
I wanted to ask, as a producer, were there any very unexpected sort of twists or turns in shooting this? And did it kind of veer in a new direction that you didn't expect at any point?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the whole thing was unexpected, first of all. because it literally just came out of a conversation I was having with someone at a party. And, um, it's not something that we saw ourselves doing, or we didn't know that much about Ukraine. We weren't really in with it. Like it wasn't something we had thought of doing or anything like that. So that was the first part. And then I think what was unexpected for Bob when he was over there interviewing was just how positive everybody was that he talked to and how much joy they had, like authentic joy on a level that I think we could learn a lot from as Americans. It was such a consistent, authentic, awakened state that he was finding with all these women he interviewed. And I think that's not at all what he expected going over there. I don't think anyone going into a war zone to film people would be expecting that those people would seem more enlightened and more happy and more just present with the blessings of their lives, and also kind of fearless in a way. Like a lot of them have sort of transcended fear. It's fascinating. You would think that people would be very afraid, and whatever images you have of what would be like to be in a country that's being attacked every day. They're getting these siren warnings and missiles are coming and all kinds of things, but there's just this, it's almost like they've just all surrendered, and they feel that they're there for a higher purpose, and they've transcended their own fears that they used to have in their lives. And all of that was unexpected.
Wow. And I would think that he bonded with them in a way that is unique to covering war. And
yeah, the other thing that was really interesting for him is that he had an approach to filming the interviews where he didn't want to use a translator, because he wanted the interviews to feel very intimate, and he wanted them to be like stream of consciousness. He didn't want to have the people pause to get the translations. So Bob didn't know what they were saying and until much later,
Wow.
until we hired Ukrainian translators and translated all the footage. And then when he was in the editing process, he actually learned what they were saying. So that's unusual, obviously. He had another woman there who's a co-producer of ours who's Ukrainian, talking with the people directly, but felt very intimate. And he just listened, allowed what they wanted to say to come through, and then later figured out which pieces he was going to use in the film.
I was watching a little documentary where there was a neuroscientist talking about communication, and she's done a lot of research on it. And she was saying that what she's discovered as working on various studies and over her career is that the most memorable and significant part of communication is not at all the words that we say and the ideas that we exchange. It's actually the feeling behind it, because people misremember, misinterpret. And the big takeaway, that I got was that the underlying communication that happens is it's nonverbal. It's through emotions and an exchange of emotions. So it's about like compassion and feeling each other. So I would think that that's an exercise in that, to just listen and kind of like get out of your head and just feel what's going on, like from Bob's perspective, directing and being there. Definitely. In that situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So folks can go to yogisofukraine.com and they can donate and they can see the preview, and it's worth a trip over there. So go right now. And thank you so much, Alexandra Angelique Leeper, for joining us today. Thanks for producing this fantastic film, and I'm excited. I hope it goes to Cannes and everything and everywhere else that could possibly go.
Thank you. And I just would like to close with one last thing, just to say that I really feel like, for people that feel like they want to contribute to world peace at this time and don't know what to do, because, I didn't know what to do before. But being involved with our project, it's going to grow into something much bigger. And we would really appreciate your financial support, or even sharing our website with your networks, just to get it out there on a bigger scale. We're just a very, kind of started this from nothing, and we're just really excited to put something out that could make a really big change in the energetics on the planet at this time. So thank you for taking a look at our website, and hope to include you in our community.
Yes, yes. It was really profound just seeing the folks in the military, especially, men doing yoga and really,
Yes.
looking like they're feeling at peace.
Yes, that was one of the most favorite, that's everybody's favorite part of the film. And seeing military people who are on front lines being transformed by yoga meditation is so fulfilling. It gives you a hope. We've had people say, this gives me hope world peace is possible, just watching this movie, because it's so drastically different than what you would imagine is happening with frontline soldiers. It's become a huge thing over there, and I think it could be in any country in the world utilized if we're able to build enough momentum.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Healing Wisdom at Outermost Radio. All of our shows are podcasts at WOMR.org. Also check out healingwisdomradioshow.com and contact me at pandora@WOMR.org. Our theme music is provided by Mason. You can find her website at masonmusic.com. That's MAESYN.
Yeah. Cool.